Hello and welcome to chapter 2 of Angular Material Theming System. In this chapter, we are going to talk about colors. Make sure that you have cloned the repository and started chapter 2. Links and instructions are given in the section below of this video. In this chapter, we are going to cover 5 topics. We will understand how to use pre-built themes. Then we will take a look at how to create a custom theme. Then we will understand how color palettes are structured in Angular material and how they are used. We will also understand some roles with respect to material 3 design. Then we will understand how to implement light and dark mode. And then we will implement a theme toggle functionality in our application. Before moving ahead, I want to quickly show you the demo of the application which we are going to use throughout this whole course. So this is a simple to-do application. User can click on plus to create any to-do. They can enter anything. So I'll add a to-do first. I'll keep the priority as medium. I'll add click on to-do. So to-do card will be added over here, and they can also mark the to-do as done. So it will be displayed in a separate section. They can also delete the to-do, and once they delete it, they can also bring it back by clicking on undo in the snack bar. So this is a very simple to-do application, and all the to-dos are maintained in browser's local storage. So if you reload the application, the to-dos will be maintained across refreshes. There is one more feature in this, which is changing the orders by drag and drop. So I am using Angular CDK drag and drop to handle this functionality. Okay, let's take a look at our first lesson, which is pre-built theme. So to use pre-built theme, there are two ways. First is through Angular Material Schematic, and another one is through manual import. So when we install Angular Material using ng-add, you can select any pre-built theme to have it installed in your application. This application, the demo application which I showed you, is created using custom theme of Angular Material, but you can select any pre-built theme for your application. Another way is through manual import. We can type down the path to pre-built theme in our Angular JSON styles array, for example, and it will showcase the pre-built theme. Let's try to use this Azure Blue pre-built theme in our application. So I will copy this path and I will go to my VS Code where I have Angular JSON already open, and I will paste that path in styles array. So I have added that path, and to see the effect, I will also remove theme from our main styles file. I will save all these files, but as we have made changes in Angular JSON, we will have to restart our dev server. So to restart the dev server, I will first stop it, then I will restart it. So once it's restarted, you can see Azure Blue theme is applied. But let's debug this in browser tools to understand better. So if I go to DevTools and go to HTML, you see this CSS variables which has prefix of mat_sys. These are Angular Material CSS variables and they are getting fetched from Azure Blue.css file. You can see the path. So that means that our pre-built theme is working as expected. But what will happen if we bring back our custom theme? Let's see that also. I will uncomment this and I will remove Azure Blue pre-built theme. I will save all. Again, I will restart the server. And once the server is restarted, let's go back to our HTML DevTools and try to inspect the tokens. So as you can see, now it is fetching from m3system.scss. So this is the tokens path, default token path from where our tokens are getting fetched. So we saw in pre-built theme, it was fetching tokens from pre-built themes CSS file. Now it is fetching from default location of Angular Material Library. I'm going to keep the custom theme in our case because we are going to play around custom theme only. But if you want to use pre-built theme, feel free to do that. But you may not be able to follow the code snippets which I'm going to show you. So I recommend that you keep the custom theme for now. And at the end of the course, you can decide to switch to any pre-built theme. Now, if you look at our main styles file, we have a mat.theme mixin. Mat.theme is a mixin and it takes a map that defines color, typography, and density values. And this mixin outputs a set of CSS variable that controls the whole Angular material theme. But the theme file in our application applies Azure and Blue for primary and tertiary palette, Roboto for font, and standard density. Zero density means standard density across our Angular material components. And it is targeting HTML selector so that all the variables are applied across entire application. In our previous chapter, we learned that color property can accept two types of values. One is a single color palette and another one is a map like this. Now, let's take a deep look into this color property, how it works, how it behaves for different types of inputs. Okay, let's start with theme type property of color map. Theme type property in color map can accept three values. One is light, second one is dark, and third one is color scheme. First of all, let's see how our CSS variables look for color when we have applied light theme type. Let's take a look at in our browser DevTools. So I am in HTML selector and I am scrolling down to find out the color properties. So as you can see, matsys background, matsys error, and all other color variables, they have a single CSS color value assigned to it, and they are of light theme because we have applied theme type as light in our code. Let's apply theme type as dark and observe its output. I will go back to browser DevTools. And now if you see, we still have the variables available, but they are of a darker theme now, right? Now let's apply color scheme for theme type and observe the output. I will go back to DevTools again. Now if you see, all the variables are defined using light dark function. So light dark is a CSS function and it works based on a property called color scheme. So color scheme is a CSS property that allows an element to indicate which color scheme it can comfortably render in. So basically, color scheme will help us define Angular material theme based on user preferences. So for example, if I give in HTML selector, if I give color scheme light, it will render the light variable, which we are seeing anyways by default. If I switch this light to dark, then it will render dark variables. So this is how light dark function in CSS works. Okay, I'll go back to the code and by default theme type will have color scheme value. So I'm going to remove that and I want color scheme value to be applied because I want CSS variables to be generated using light dark CSS function. So I will keep it like that and I will give color scheme as light by default in my HTML selector. Now I will save this. So we saw how theme type works. Now let's see how primary and tertiary properties work. Let's take a look at Azure Palette, how it's structured. So if you look at the code for Azure Palette, first of all, it has 0 to 100 index colors. Then it has map of secondary colors. Then there is map of neutral colors. Neutral colors has some more colors. Then there is map of neutral variant color. And this also has error color, which is being applied using patch error palette function. So basically, in Angular material, all the palettes have same error palettes, right? To make it easier, I want to show you one diagram so that you can relate everything together in Angular material theming. So take a look at this diagram. First of all, we have theme configuration, which is the definition of mat.theme mixin. So it takes color palettes for primary and tertiary properties, and each and every color palette is a map of all the color rules. So default ones are the primary color rules. Then there are named maps called secondary, tertiary, neutral, neutral variant, and error. We saw that in Azure Palette example. And each and every color rule has HCT tolerant values starting from 0 to 100 in this order. And neutral color map has some extra color values. HCT stands for hue, chroma, and tone. And these color values are defined according to Material 3 design guidelines. So each and every palette is structured like this. So primary, secondary, tertiary, neutral, neutral variant, and error. These are all known as color rules with respect to Material 3 design. Now looking at this, you may wonder that why Angular Material Team provides properties only for primary and tertiary in their config, why they allow to override only this two, and why not secondary, neutral, neutral, variant, and errors. So Angular material theming works in a way that it reads all the palettes, secondary, tertiary, neutral, neutral variant, and error first from this primary properties palette. And then if you provide a palette for tertiary, then it will read primary roles colors and bind it to tertiary. So all the color roles except for tertiary are written from primary properties palette, and for tertiary we can override it. So in Material 3 design, tertiary is an accent rule. So that's why Angular Material team allows us to override the accent rule apart from primary rule. So secondary, error, neutral, and neutral variant are derived from primary palette, and for tertiary it reads primary color rules from its palettes. Correct? To see this in effect, let's try to change properties in mat.thememixin to see what kind of output it generates. So I will go back to the editor. And first of all, I will remove the color map altogether from theme mixing and let's see what output it is generating. So in the output, you can see now it does not have any colors applied. Let's inspect this in browser's DevTools. Let's inspect this card component. And if you take a look at the CSS code for MDC card class, background color, border radius, box shadow, all these properties are reading values from Angular materials CSS variables. But as we have removed color property from theme mixin, these variables are not getting generated and hence we are seeing just a black and white kind of UI, more of a wireframe UI, right? Let's change the color property again. This time I will directly give Azure palette. But before that, let's give a blank map and let's see what kind of output it generates. So I will save this and let's go to browser again. So we can see now colors are being generated, right? So when we gave color property, even without any color palettes, it is still generating colors and by default it is generating colors from violet palette. You can see now this surface CSS variables are generated with light dark function. Earlier, these variables were not generated and hence we were not seeing any colors. Even we can see the color on add button, correct? Now, let's go back and provide only single value. So I will provide Azure palette and save it. Let's go back to browser. Now the colors are different because now it is generating colors from Azure palette. We can see that bluish colors are being applied, right? So now all the colors, primary, secondary, tertiary, neutral variant, all the color roles are being generated from primary palette only because we have provided only single palette. So that's why all the color roles are being read from primary palette. Now, what we will do, we will provide a tertiary palette also. Now I will save this and I will go back to browser. Now it will generate colors from primary and tertiary properties both. So for primary set of CSS variables, it will generate colors from Azure palette. And for tertiary related CSS variables, it will generate colors from tertiary palette. So this is how Angular material themes colors work. Angular material theme provides 12 pre-built palettes which you can use with primary or tertiary palette. And those palettes are these palettes: red, green, blue, up to rose palette. So you can use any palette out of these 12 palettes, correct? So now we know how palettes are structured, uh, what are all the roles involved in it, and how many HCT tonal values each and every role needs, correct? So we can create our own custom palettes. We just have to follow that structure. But there are lots of rules and lots of HCT tonal values involved, and we also have to follow Material 3 design guidelines to generate those colors. So to make that process simpler, Angular Material team also provides a schematic called theme color. Using this schematic, we can easily generate a custom color palette by providing some set of colors. Let's run this in our project. So I'm going to copy this command and I'm going to go back to the code and I will open new terminal. I will paste that command. I will press enter. For primary color, I will provide 6750A4 and for rest of the colors, I am going to leave blank. For high contrast, I am going to select yes. If you get the question for directory, in that I'm going to provide src slash styles slash. If you get a question for generating SCSS versus CSS file, leave blank because we want to generate SCSS file. So this command has generated a theme file as at underscore theme colors.scss inside styles folder. And if you take a look at the code, first it has a variable called palettes, and palette is nothing but map of all the colors, primary, secondary, tertiary, and likewise. Then there is some code written to construct primary and tertiary palette so that they follow the same structure as other palettes of Angular material, right? So the reason is that we are going to use these palettes in mat.theme mixin. So they need to follow a particular structure of Angular materials palettes. Otherwise, the code will break. So these are piece of codes uh, through which Angular material team is returning us the palettes in a structured manner, which is same as other pre-built palettes. Next, there is some code written uh, and a mixin is created called high contrast overrides. This mixin will be helpful when user has high contrast preferences enabled. To use this newly created theme, we will import that in our main styles file, and we will use primary and tertiary from that new theme file. So we are using now primary palette and tertiary palette, and we are assigning them as primary and tertiary palette in mat.theme mixin. Now I will save this. Now as you can see, it is using the new palette. As earlier it was using blue palette. Now it is using more purplish palette because 6750A4 relies to more purple palette, correct? Let's also take a look at in the browser. So all the colors are now more purplish, correct? Now to include high contrast override, what we will do, we will use media query and we will apply high contrast override inside that media query. We will use prefers contrast media query. So let's do that. I'm going to add a code after mat.theme, and I'm using media query prefers contrast more, and I'm including the mixin high contrast overrides. And this mixin accepts one argument for theme type. Theme type can have one of three values, which are light, dark, or color scheme. For now, as our HTML selector has color scheme of light, I am applying light. Let's save this. Let's go back to browser. Now, to see high contrast in action, we will have to emulate prefers contrast to be more. Only then we will be able to see the high contrast thing. So let's try to do that in Chrome browser. I am using Chrome browser, so I'm going to show the steps for that. You can find out similar steps for your browser. So we will go to DevTools. We will go to console. We will type rendering. We will click on show rendering drawer, and then we will find out emulate CSS media features prefers contrast. And I will select prefers contrast more. And you can see the colors are bit more darker. You see, all the colors are bit more darker. Even in the dialog box, the border color, the text color of this button is bit more darker. I'll go back to no emulation. So colors are now bit more lighter. So we can see that prefers contrast more is applying our newly created theme in a highly contrast mode enabled, right? Okay, I will revert it back to no emulation. Now, if you see the CSS variables which Angular Material generates, those use light dark CSS function. And light dark CSS function makes it easy for our application to switch between light and dark mode. The light dark function depends on the value of color scheme declared in our application's global style. So in our case, we have defined color scheme as light. So light dark CSS function understands that within HTML, it needs to take light values from light dark function. We can also define this as dark or light space dark. So let's first of all try by applying dark, and I will also add dark in high contrast mixing. I will save this and let's take a look at the output. So as soon as you save this, you will see the darker theme is getting applied, right? Now instead of dark, what I will do, I will apply light dark. So what light dark theme will do? Light dark theme will apply theme based on users preferences. And for high contrast overrides, I will pass color scheme. So whatever is the value of color scheme, it should take that. I will save this and it will still apply dark theme because my preferences are darker. If your preferences are lighter in your system, then you will see lighter theme, but my preferences are darker. So that's why we are seeing dark theme. Now what we will do, by default, I want to keep the light theme applied and I will keep the color scheme for high contrast overrides because I want to enable high contrast mode based on color scheme's value. So I will keep color scheme in that. For dark mode, what I will do, I will create new class for dark mode and I will simply override color scheme as dark. So I will save this. So now again, once it reloads, it will show you the light theme because color scheme is light in HTML selector. Let's go back to the browser and in HTML or body anywhere, let's say I add dark mode as class. Then you will see dark color getting applied, right? So you get an idea, right? How we can enable dark mode in Angular material theming. But when we enable dark mode, the background color of application is not getting aligned with Angular material theme. So let's fix that. To fix that, I will go to index.html and I will create a new inline style called app background. So basically this app background will have background color from matte sys surface CSS variable and color from matte sys on surface. We are going to learn more about these CSS variables, also known as system variables in Angular material. We will cover in depth about how these variables are structured and what are all the values possible in CSS variable. So for now, just understand that this surface is a variable used for background in Angular material and on surface is used as foreground color in Angular material. Next, I will apply this class with my MATLAB typography and I will save this. Now I will go back to the browser again. Now let's apply dark mode to body. And as you can see, the full application now supports the Angular material theme. Our application's background now aligns more towards Angular material. We can see it over here, right? Next, we are going to create a service and a component to handle this theme toggle functionality for end user. Codes for theme changes service and theme toggle component are going to be easy and pretty straightforward. And I'm going to provide code snippets directly in the article below this video so that you can easily copy paste. And you can also find code snippets in the end folder for this chapter in Angular Material Theming System exercise repository. Basically, this theme changer service, I already have code in place. This service is going to help us store the last preferred theme by the user in local storage so that whenever user visits our application next time, our application will render the last preferred theme by the user. Okay, so this is the simple code for theme changer service where I am maintaining a signal for dark mode, and I have enabled a public dark flag also so that you can use that anywhere in your application. You just need to read is dark flag, and if it's true, that means your application is in dark mode, else your application is in light mode. Okay, you can go through this code. This is a simple code. Next, I have also created code for theme toggle. So theme toggle is going to be a simple switch between light and dark mode. If you click on dark button, then your application will be switched to dark mode. As simple as that. So once you have created theme toggle and theme changes service, we will implement that in our app component. So let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to go to app.component and I will import newly created theme toggle component. I will go to the template theme and in the toolbar, I will have theme toggle ready with me and I will add a class called theme toggle because I want this theme toggle to be right aligned in the toolbar. So I'm also going to add some styles. So inside my toolbar, I will create a class called theme toggle and I will apply margin left. Let's save all this. And as you can see on the top right side, we have a theme toggle component. Let's go to the browser. As you can see, we have dark mode enabled and we can see the theme toggle component. If I switch to light mode, we can see the light theme getting applied. And if I reload the application, it will still show me the light mode because theme is stored in browser's local storage. Let's see that. If we go to local storage, in my app theme, we can see value light. If I switch to dark, then value will be changed to dark. And if I reload, it will load the dark theme. So this brings to the end of this chapter. To recap, we started first with what are pre-built themes and how we can use that. So there were two ways. One using ng add Angular materials schematic. Uh, there we can select any pre-built theme instead of custom theme to use the theme. And second way was manually importing CSS file, and we saw how we can do that by adding in Angular JSON's array, right? Secondly, we learned how the color property in method theme mixing works. We saw what happens if we remove the color property altogether. What happens if we apply a blank map to color map property. We also saw by applying a single color palette to color, and we also learned what are all the properties which can be applied in a map to color property. And with primary and tertiary, the another important property was theme type. Theme type can accept light, dark, and color scheme as value. Color scheme is a default value. We also saw how color scheme in CSS works. Then we understood how color palettes are structured in Angular material. All the color palettes have all the color roles in it. Default is primary, which does not have a map, and then there are named maps for secondary, tertiary, neutral, neutral variant, and error. And all the color rules have HCT values in this order from 0 to 100, except for neutral, which has some more color rules. And in Angular material theme config, we can override only tertiary property, which is the accent color in terms of material thread design. Rest of the color rules are being read from primary palette in Angular material. Next, we created a custom color palette using theme color schematic, which is also provided by Angular material. And this is a really handy tool if you want to create custom color palettes from some set of colors. Lastly, we saw how to enable light and dark mode, and we also saw how to enable high contrast mode for better accessibility. And after that, we implemented a theme changes service and a theme toggle component. So I hope you learned about how colors work in Angular material. Next, we are going to cover typography. Thank you.